Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to resilience, business continuity, crisis management, disaster recovery, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Many listeners and viewers, you'll know that every so often I travel to different conferences around the globe, sometimes speaking, sometimes just showing up to cause trouble, or sometimes just to meet new colleagues and friends and talk everything resilience related. Today, I met our guest today, at the Business Continuity Institute conference in, I think it was I forgot the dates, early November 2023. And they came up and introduced themselves to me, and we got chatting, and I decided, hey, let's get that guy on this show. So I want to welcome today to talk about starting a business continuity program from scratch. I want to welcome Yusuf Ukaye. Yusuf, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be on the show today, Alex, and I'm looking forward to the conversation in regards to building a program from scratch and all the facets that come with it as well. So I'm happy to be here, and it was also great to meet you back in London for Business Continuity Institute's World event in London. So looking forward to today's conversation. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to today's conversation. And before we started recording, like I mentioned to you, believe it or not, I've not had a show where we talked about this before. So you get the pleasure or the honor, really, of talking about this, how you start a program from scratch. But before we get there, I know you and I have sent emails back and forth. We chatted at the conference. Could you take a minute or so and tell us about yourself, what you do, and how you got into what you do?
Sure. So, first of all, it's great to be on the podcast. Great to talk about a subject I'm so passionate about, something I have zeal for. I started my career in resilience way back in 2011, working for a niche resilience, or I would say a security consultancy, pure play consultancy in resilience, business continuity, accrediting to government standards, information security, data protection. And it was there that I started my zeal. I had various business development and marketing roles in business continuity, where I was actually at the coalface, as it were, to sell the product itself, whether it be workplace recovery, backup and recovery, as well as various pure play consultants, so possibly 5 or 6 days worth of consultancy and so forth. I would say back in 2015, I took a diploma in business continuity, and I felt that that was the academic route was the route I was going to choose. So without going into further detail about the various roles and responsibilities in the organisation I work for, I predominantly looked at, say, 7 or 8 years to date in delivering business continuity programs, both in the private and the public sector. And they've been some exciting roles, some very challenging roles, and some roles that I've learned a tremendous amount in terms of the various assets and facets that I've come across. So it's been an amazing journey, and I'm looking forward to what the future holds as well. So in terms of today, I think it's no better way but to start off by talking about how do we look at the foundations. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to this chat. So welcome to the show, Yusuf.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask the first question. I've sat down with my boss, and my boss gives me that wonderful comment: you need to start a business continuity program. Go to it. What the heck is the first thing I should do?
Well, it's a great question. And I want to break it down without going into ISO standards, assurances, formalities, and what have you. And let's just talk about how somebody would normally talk about anything related to resilience in the real world. It's a no-brainer from a professional perspective, in which we don't even start with those two words, business continuity. I would say that we start with the word protect, because that feels like a safe way to start a conversation. I'm in awe of organizations who do certify to ISO. I'm in awe of anyone who's able to pass SOC assurances, and the various ISO accreditations to information security, cyber security standards, NIST standards, and so forth. But one thing I would like to start the conversation off with is what I've spoken to a lot of people in the last 2.5 years is what have you done to start your day to protect the most important areas of your business? Let's not go into the context and the clauses and the BIAs and so forth. Let's look at what do people really care about and why, and stem from there. And then we want to hone in on what's really important, Alex. So why is that important? Why is that your domain? Why is that king for you? And what value do you place on these so-called areas? So you might just well be an organization that creates nuts and bolts and washers and gaskets, and you've got about 100, 150 people, but you've got a large base of customers who are high value. So there's an emphasis on quality. So we start talking about the reputation that you have as an organization where you might be in the world. And the next thing I'll start talking about in terms of building that program is if we were to lose in the next 10 minutes, everything that you've worked towards in the last 35, 40 years, what mechanisms are you going to be relying on based on you losing what you've done for the last 35 years? And that's a really powerful question because somebody might say, well, why 10 minutes? I mean, all it takes is one click of a button and somebody's reputation is down because of a post they've provided on social media.
Yeah.
And that organization may not have actually got a social media policy in place. They may not even have an AI policy in place because of where we are in the world today. And the last question I would ask or pertain to ask is, do you feel that you're immune to risk from a personal or professional basis?
Mm.
And I think where we fall foul is that we then want to understand what do they understand about risk? What to them is the largest risk in their organization by creating washers and gaskets as an organization? They may be creating washers and gaskets for Aston Martin or McLaren or one of the top F1 companies, but they've never understood the rationale behind the links between that supply chain. They could well be a major provider of goods and services to the Suez Canal, and we all have to know about the geopolitical situation that's going on in the world. And I want to also link in with something else because this all hones into good governance and good. And I have this saying about good. That's the foundation. Understanding, creating a policy, and so forth. Understanding that good governance. So I think those questions really feed in because good governance will actually prevent you from looking like the fall guy. I believe, because the last thing we want to do is look like a fall guy, and then things don't really tend to look like they should do. So hopefully that's given you a start of a 10 there, Alex, for the first question. Yeah.
Well, let's say I've got those answers. See, I told you we'd be off script real quick. So
Yeah.
let's say I've got those answers to those questions, and I've approached the people I needed to. What do I do with that information now, though? Because I really don't have a program yet. So what do I do with it?
I think as any resilience professional, we've got a story to tell, and we think I think we should be telling that story from day dot. Whether we are starting off, we've just literally graduated from university and we're in our first role, we've got a story to tell and we've got to be brave with that story. And the art of storytelling is first important because that's our roadmap to success. We also have to engage with every stakeholder that matters to us, so maybe creating a RACI matrix. And because we all like this good story, we can then start looking at what are the nuts and bolts of a good program. So we can't forget what's important to us internally as well as externally. What methodologies or mechanisms do we do? So a really good program needs not only the resource of people, but the financial resource to back up what we need to carry out. So will a piece of software provide us with that mechanism to save time, for example, because the organization's MD had actually recently attended a security event, for example. And what we also want to do is to understand, well, when we start creating this program, who are you actually entertaining these ideas to? So again, we then start talking about that roadmap to success. What does it involve? What does that look like? What does the journey look like? And with any program, it doesn't just stop. With anything business continuity related, it doesn't stop. It's an ongoing project. So after the first 12 months, we don't want to be seen as one-hit wonders, as it were. We're going to be seen as people who are looked to and respected to. So first of all, making people aware of socialization events. Business Continuity Awareness Week that is held every year. You've got in the States the DRI, the DRJ. You've also got the BCI and the Continuity Planners Association as well, I believe. So these associations can provide that support from a collateral perspective, and also the links that you have with various other jurisdictions and organizations too. So again, putting a diary of events and making people aware of your presence as well. Yeah.
I like the piece that you said there. Tell the story. When you've got this information, you can identify it. This is what's important. This is
Sure.
why you do it, and this is what's going to happen if you can't do it. And then that really makes people wake up. Like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. What do you need from me, right? Right off the bat.
I think what I also like to share with you is that a lot of people don't realize they're doing BC without even realizing it. And if you think about somebody who comes into, I'll give you another example, an organization that provides a consultancy service to organizations that need that advice and guidance. Just imagine there's an implementation of the provision of services to an organization, and that's there's a team of specialists providing cybersecurity consultancy, and they're not able to make that flight to deliver that spiel to a group of delegates, a group of board of directors. What's the impact going to be if they don't get that message? So what is the contingencies that organization has to ensure that their reputation is intact? And I think what we tend to forget is that the art of storytelling is that we've been in that situation. What do we learn from that? I also want to share that we all have a story to tell. So when people start to say, well, am I really doing business continuity? Well, think about what they would do. What is their utopia? And one of the stories I'd like to share is I was in a business meeting. It was my first BIA meetings, and I totally went off script. And I put the BIA to one side, and I just asked one question, which allowed my stakeholder to talk for 90 minutes. So the question was, you look after 90 people. If you were unable to carry out your 3 or 4 main critical activities, what do you need to happen and why? What do you need from me? If you were given that magic wand, what do we need to make happen? What's the capability around this? And just surrounding those little questions that I started off, held back and allowed that stakeholder to speak and create that picture. And pretty much that was the BIA. And we're pretty much 80% there of the BIA from that conversation. And I think we sometimes forget how powerful these questions are. So again, you could link that in with coaching, which is another great tool to use when we're trying to build that program. And when we start talking about building a program from scratch, there's something really important, Alex, that we need to also involve. It's not just about the governance, it's about the passion and the zeal the professional has to have in that environment. So how well is that message being articulated on a monthly or quarterly basis in newsletters, on LinkedIn, in respect of the IT professionals that are within the organization, the infrastructure professionals? How well are we actually speaking to our opposite numbers in competitors in talking about what challenges we have in non-regulated environments where it comes to operational resilience challenges, for example? How well are we versed in those challenges in terms of third-party risk management and how they are linking in with our plans? And another area that sometimes does get passed up on is crisis management and how that can sometimes blur the lines with business continuity as well. How well are we actually articulating the importance to our strategic line in terms of those slow burn events that we might be ignoring? So again, how many of us really could foresee some of the crises that have unfolded and say, the last 18 months to 24 months or so. So it's all good instead, but again, so much to build on in the first 12 months from scratch as well. Yeah.
There was so much there. I got so much to say, but we have to take a break in just a few
Yeah,
seconds. So I'm just going to quickly cover a couple of things. You mentioned the project, and a lot of people do think BCM is a project because a project has a start and end date with a set deliverable. But once you put
correct.
a BCP plan, well, great, we're done. We don't need to ever look at it again. The other piece I liked you said was the people using business continuity on a regular basis and they don't even know it. I've mentioned to people quite a few times, I say, I guarantee you have used continuity in one way or another in your daily life. And they said, no, I've never done it at all. I said, sure. You drive to the office. Have you ever had a roadblock because of an accident or something like that? And they said, yeah. I said, what do you do? They said, well, I have to figure out a new way to work and, get there the fastest way. I said, oh, so you were using a contingency plan, were you? And they went, oh yeah. And then they started thinking the small things in the office, going, oh, wow, I really do use it more than I thought. I went, exactly. Now think of the whole company having to do it. And they're, I get it now.
And
But on that, we've come to the end of our first segment. We're talking with Yusuf Ukaye today about how we get started on a new business continuity program. And we will be right back. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.